Martin, here's the song.
Yeah.
The arrangement is not going to change. These are the words, these are chords, that's all going to be there. Now you tell me what the drums are supposed to do, because I've got no clue. Whereas other things, I go, Marty, I want this here, can you put this here for me? I want a big, and I just go, I've done with it, you go, and that was it. So he did that, yeah. And of course it was great, he put exactly the right thing to go, but then we faced the situation. I said, Marty, we've got a lot of it in the main verses, but what I'm feeling is this really big emotional build-up with the drums. Yeah. I'm feeling that the drums are kind of the heartbeat that starts racing, remembering this past and these problems, and the whole thing picks up, and the drums start taking over the whole thing. And in the rehearsal, I mean, we're just round him. He's on the kit and in the rehearsal room, and I go, come on, Martin, fucking go, come on! And Chris would be doing the solo, and I'm going, fuck Chris, come on, take over! And that's what we did. And that was it. And of course, it just turned out fantastic. So it's a huge, huge song in the trilogy, because there it was, saying, I belong at the end. And you've got to make 2 albums to get to me.
Do you believe that you will ever do such a big project like this?
Oh, absolutely not. No way.
You're that kind of
no way, man.
Never.
No way, man. No way. No, it's been. This has been 3 years with pushing and pushing. I've had a bit of time off each summer where we didn't have much, but. We started before, well before we did the pre-production, well before the recording of the first album, for the Entanglement, and then with the dates were set for the studio. For 3 years, the dates of the studio were set. You know when you're going in, you know when you've got to have your stuff done. And tonight we drive up to Mantiharu. We got a night off there.
Yeah.
Last year. Me and Chris got together and we were writing, and we were trying to we're looking at the notes and going through the ideas and go, right, and then then we got that. And on the German tour we got, all right, I said to the guy on the soundist, can you record something for me? He said, yeah, if you got, so put the thing in, and that's first true sign. Is the jam that I had, no, I want this here, I want it to, so every fucking thing, and you get to the end, we came off the end of the tour, on something like, the came off the end of the tour at something like October 4th, and then 10th of October, we're starting, man. So it's, we had to take extra days off because we physically were ill, and we couldn't start on October the 5th, so it was like, what, man? Oh, it's a lot. It's been huge. And on that last mix of that last thing, we're like.
But about this, you have some plans to really put out some PC game and the book as well, right?
No, I've got plans. Yeah, I have plans. The book is next, and. Now, because I'm not writing and there's no studio album to make this year, then in September, October, then I plan to put another chunk of the book together, and then hopefully next year I'll have it finished. And all the songs from the trilogy, all of the lyrics are actually come from that book, and the ideas in that book, and it's the story of this man finding that he does not have a human body, and deciding for himself who and what he is, and then after believing that he was finding redemption, that he was atoning by signing up for this mission of 1,000 years, a one-way mission, and then being lied to and pushed away and rejected, and they tried to murder him, to kill him. After that, thinking there was nothing left, then arriving on the new world, being surrounded by strangers, and making a decision and thinking, well, perhaps there is a way that he never saw, there is a way to redeem himself for the terrible atrocities and horrible things that he did in his past in the military, and that's what he does. And so at the end of the redemption of William Black is the Eagle Spirit, and he has trained and stands alongside the indigenous population and defends them against the new conquistadors and fights alongside them against the new conquistadors.
What about this, within these 3 years, did you actually feel like you felt like you are really creative and you found new ways to express yourself both musically and lyrically as well? Like, you know, making like this huge concert thing that you did, and which I respect so much, it's, you know, it takes lots of effort to come up with everything.
Yeah, and I think it is breaking it into smaller parts. Seeing the end, and then coming back and going, right, it's one song at a time. And we had songs that we wrote that we loved that just didn't fit, and we had to find new songs. We had to find new solutions for the story to make the story fit, and every album had to make sense on its own. If you don't know about Blaze Bayley, if you don't know it's a concept, if you don't know it's a story, you have to be able to listen to that album and go, well, that's a good album, isn't it? And that's the first thing. So at the very start, I made a deal with Chris, and I said, right, I've got to have the final say on where we are musically and what happens, but on the running order, you have the final say, and I will suggest it and I'll argue for it, but in the end you pick the running order to make it the best album as a normal album would be. And that's what we did. And the last one, we battled over it, and in the end, and I said, oh, this, that, and he goes, and I said, well, this is what I would have in my ideal world. And he said, yeah, but it's not an ideal world for you, is it? It's what I say. And he's like, get out. But you have to stick to it, because my version, of course, was really boring. And he was just, and then Chris chose it, well, this one with in this key, and that goes there, and it's more, and it really takes you on the journey. But I think we always knew that Eagle Spirit would be last.
Yeah.
And it was finding out where everything else went. And the start of the album was always the start of the album, because that was the intro to the set on the last tour.
Okay.
And the intro to the set on the first tour is the intro to the first album. The ending of the second album is the start of the third, and it's also the start of the thing. So if you listen to the album, you'll listen. If last year, if you were here, that intro you heard is now a full song. That intro turned into the first song of the album.
That's clever.
So it's like, we didn't know how we were going to do it. But we knew what we had to do. That was it. It's right. This is the intro of the first song on part 3. Like, yeah, it is, all right. And we didn't know what it would turn into, that it would be Redeemer. And we're looking at each other as we're writing, and we've got the computer there, and I'm going, where's the fucking chorus, man? And then suddenly it goes, Redeemer. That's it, yeah, fucking hell, we've got it.
There you go. Actually, many of your albums have been released on your own label.
Yeah.
And I think the starting point for you maybe was that we're kind of fed up this music business, and all this controlling, and I was out of it. I was absolutely out of it, really. And I wanted to make a new album, The Man Who Would Not Die, and I went to a distributor in the UK, and I said, I want to start my own record company, and this is it. And he just looked at the numbers. He said, you did that much with Iron Maiden, yes. And that was it. And I thought, oh, great. So I was so lucky that I had the Iron Maiden tag, and my 2 albums with Iron Maiden, despite what people think, did very well. And then I managed to make The Man Who Would Not Die. And then I had to wait, for everything else was under license, I had to wait